Welcome, Harambee Radio and television family, to Live in the Spirit Business Monday with Brother Wali, also known as Wallace the Motivator Durham. And yes, you've just tuned in to www.haramberadio.com, or you have called us on the conference at 1-805-309-0111. This lays claim to the #1 consciousness-raising radio station on the planet, bar none. So tell family, tell friends, tell those that you love to tune in as well. What we're going to do tonight, again, taking it yet to another level, is ask you to be prepared to open your mind up and consider options and possibilities for yourself. We here at Harambee only bring the best out of us to get the best out of you. So thank you once again. Every Monday night, Harambee gives me great pleasure again in coming on, introducing you to some of the dignitaries that are amongst us, and again, opening up to you, the greatest one within. I thank you once again. On this beautiful December 16th, 2013, how have you all been? It's been a very exciting and pleasurable weekend for me. I'd like to tell you, family, I had the pleasure of being with my mom, my wife, my children, who are all adults now, my sister, my nephews, my great niece. We had a family portrait we took at my mother's church, Beulah Baptist. She had asked us to come through on Saturday. They were doing something for the book. So that was a great mini family reunion. So I want to extend love out to my family and thank them all for remaining as one as we did that. And, of course, those pictures, we are sure, when they come back from Life Touch, will be greatly appreciated and cherished as well. Well, tonight, family, again, I did a little change. As most of you know, last week I made that Metaphysical Monday because of the scheduling for tonight. What we want you to do, and I'm going to ask most of you to grab a pen, because this guest tonight is going to give us something special. But before we bring him on, I want to give you a little bit of background about him for some of you who may have not known of him, maybe heard the name, but maybe get a little bit familiar about the subject matter at hand. Now, it's our pleasure to have this distinguished gentleman on, a tireless educator, best-selling author, and business school professor. Dr. Dennis Kimbrell is universally characterized as an authority on leadership, wealth, and success. As one of today's top business speakers, he has documented and shared his principles and insight on peak performance with thousands of followers around the globe. As a lecturer and researcher in the field of management, entrepreneurship, and human potential, Dr. Kimbrell encourages his readers to look within to extract the keys that underlie all accomplishments. Now, he received his BA from the University of Oklahoma, his MA and doctorate from Northwestern University, where he studied wealth and poverty among underdeveloped countries. And he's married and the father of 3 daughters. Some of his accolades, for some of you who may have seen him, he's appeared on the Today Show, Larry King, CNN, and has been featured in Success, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and USA Today on numerous occasions, sharing the keys to success and achievement. Now, most of you who may have, heard about his few books, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, Daily Motivations, What Makes the Great Great, which I have a good copy of, and, of course, tonight's subject book, The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires. I had the pleasure of meeting this brother 10 years ago when I spoke to his first-year orientation class down at Clark Atlanta University, where he still is a professor. I want to let you know, family, this well-educated, distinguished brother you can see in the community every now and then, which I had the pleasure of also seeing him in his likeness. I like to consider him a financial philanthropist, and tonight you'll find out why. I'm going to introduce to some and present to others a special guest for the evening, Dr. Dennis Kimbrell. Welcome to Harambee again.
Oh, hey, it's great to be here. That's a hell of an introduction. I hope and pray that I can live up to it. God bless.
Well, brother, as the accolades are given to you, it is our pleasure, and I want to thank Dub Deuce the Poet, our producer extraordinaire, for even reaching out to you as we try to bring the best on Harambee to give out the information. And you and I had talked offline about situations, and I'm going to let the family know. Please be advised, in the second half hour, we will entertain some calls. We know a lot of people are listening, so please allow him to teach for the first, half hour or so of the show so we can go forward. But when you and I talked offline, you talked about the studies, and I didn't want to give it away in the intro. I wanted you to explain to the family what brought you to bringing out the Wealth Choice. And again, I thank you for autographing my book 10 years ago, and you still the same real brother that you was then, and I want the family to know what extensive research you've done to at least bring clarity to their mind about tonight's subject.
Well, it's just, I guess, a natural follow-up to what I've been doing my entire adult life. And so many people have heard the story about me. I just wanted to find the answers to two questions over the course of my educational career. Why does one person succeed while another fails? And why is one individual rich and wealthy while another is impoverished? Well, this book, The Wealth Choice, is a culmination of a 7-year empirical study. And people ask me all the time, well, what's the difference between this and Think and Grow Rich or Black Choice, or what makes the great great? Well, number one, like I said, empirical study. I used 3 different modes to interact with these black millionaires. When Martin Luther King led the Montgomery bus boycott in the late 1950s, Brother Wali, there were only 5 black millionaires in the United States. Now, I interviewed 3 of the 5 and shared their story in my first book, Think and Grow Rich or Black Choice. Well, now, you fast forward the videotape to 2013, not only are there 35,000 black millionaires in the United States, but you've got 5 black billionaires in the United States. And I interviewed 3 of the 5 and shared their story in The Wealth Choice. But what makes The Wealth Choice the difference? Well, number one, I used a full-blown survey. I asked these black millionaires 118 questions that they completed anonymously. Now, some even signed the survey, some attached a business card. They weren't shy about it. And I did ask some proprietary information, particularly on their personal finances. Number two, I held 6 focus groups around the country. I had 1 focus group in North Carolina. I had 3 in the Atlanta area, a huge one in Washington, D.C. That focus group that I had in Washington, D.C., Bob Johnson, the founder of BET, was in the room. Carla Harris, the most powerful black woman on Wall Street, was in the room. And both of the Roberts brothers, Mike and Stephen Roberts, who were on par to join billionaire status but couldn't hold it for the 07-08 recession. And then last but not least, I had 50 to 60 interviews. Now, when I started out on this quest, I made the distinction that I wasn't going to interview any athletes or any entertainers. Obviously they've been documented enough, and that's the business model, good, bad, or indifferent, that black America follows. I wanted to share the story of individuals who would walk up and down Peachtree Street in Atlanta or up and down, Broadway in New York or whatever, and people wouldn't give them time of day. Black men and women who went from poverty, and in some cases, Brother Wally, below poverty, to reach their financial goals and objectives, and no one placed a ball or a microphone in their hand and to do it. But obviously there were some folks who I had to include. So you name them, I probably interviewed them. I interviewed everybody from Bishop T.D. Jakes to Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, Damon John of Shark Tank, Antonio Reed, X Factor, Lisa Price, Carol's daughter. And like I said, I interviewed 3 of Black America's 5 black billionaires. I interviewed Bob Johnson, I interviewed Dave Stewart, and I spent 2 days with Kathy Hughes of Radio 1. So what's the bottom line to all this information? I can sit here and tell you as I'm seated in my study that wealth is not a function of circumstance. It's not a function of condition. It's not a function of race. It's not a function of gender, who your parents are, which side of town or the tracks you were born or raised. But it is a function of discipline, and it is a function of faith, and it is a function of perseverance, and it is a function of believing in yourself when no one else will. And those men and women who are crazy enough to believe that they can change their financial condition usually do.
I see in everything you said, and I hope our listening audience is feeling that, because you're talking about the common person who lives next door to you, who you could reach out and touch, who you probably don't even know is wealthy, not rich, because there is a difference. And I like on one of your 7 laws of wealth, and this is the key one, I'm no stranger to why it's number 1, wealth begins in the mind but ends in the purse. And there are a lot of millionaires who became rich only to see poverty later. And they fall under the category of athlete or entertainer because they hung out with the twins, Bling and Bling, and they didn't see what value it was in building wealth. And in those people you spoke of, the T.D. Jakes, Herman Cain, Spike Lee, who I've met personally, and Tyrese Gibson, who I've seen at your Take a Millionaire to Lunch, and he really breaks it down about, yes, getting rid of the toxic ones in your life. There was a season and a reason for other people. I think that's very key, Dr. Kimbro. If you could explain to people about how you have to go on this journey within first to see if you are on the right mindset to accept money if it comes to you in the millions, which some people get, and I've heard the stories of millionaires who've hit the lottery who wanted to, look themselves into millions only to become broke within 5 years. What's that mindset about when people need to know you may have to, painfully if it may seem so, eliminate certain people who are not on your same path?
Oh, without a doubt. I was on I was in Dallas, Texas for a presentation, and Fox News called me up, and they wanted to put me on the air, and they wanted to go ahead, can you just give us some tidbits of how you can go from, where you are middle class to, saving money, buying stock or savings and blah, blah, blah. And I said, sure, I can do that, but really this book isn't about that. This isn't your basic finance book. I don't tell people to drink one less cappuccino or latte a week and save the money. And this book is not about cash. This book is about courage. You see, it takes courage to chase your dream. It takes courage to believe in yourself when no one else will. It takes courage to save 10% of your earnings. And it takes courage, Brother Wally, if necessary, to find a new set of friends because your current associates or colleagues don't believe in you and don't empower you. But going back to the first law, I found 7 best practices that these men and women, if they don't adhere on a daily basis, they certainly do it weekly or monthly. And number 1 is, knowledge. Prosperity begins in the mind and ends in the purse. And I've seen it so many different times. Probably the greatest gift that the Creator has ever bestowed on me and you is the ability to change your mind. And you certainly can't develop wealth without a wealth consciousness. I wish I could share to you the email that Deborah Lee sent me concerning the BET Awards when she brought me out there to speak to some of her young entertainers and celebrities. I wish I could share with you the email and the phone conversation that I just recently received concerning a representative from the National Basketball Association. Dr. Kimbrell, please come out here for All-Star Weekend and speak to the athletes. I'm sick and tired of these guys leaving the league and being dead broke. Why? They never had a wealth consciousness. In one of the focus groups that I had, I asked one of the 7-figure types, I said, so what's the key to prosperity and building a nest egg? And he said, outread the other guy. Don't you know that the average black millionaire almost reads a book a week, 3 books a month? The average black millionaire, takes in the information. And I got a sign in my classroom, and everybody knows my class at Clark, Atlanta. Because I got several signs. Number 1, I got a sign on my door that reads, if you don't want to work hard, you don't belong here. And if you don't want to lead, under no circumstances walk through my door. And then if you have the courage, the guts, the temerity to actually walk into my classroom, you'll see another host of signs. You'll see one sign, if you don't read, if you don't study, if you don't grow, if you don't develop, if you don't go to the conferences and seminars and take in the information, someplace out in the universe, somebody else will. And the day that you meet that other person, you're going to lose. So the fact of the matter is, you don't wait till you get sick to cultivate a consciousness of health. You don't wait till you're dead broke or till you're poor, and that all it is a state of mind to cultivate prosperity. And what these black millionaires do, they take in that information. They are hungry. Brother Wally, so many times when I was interviewing these guys, I thought I was on a book tour. I'll never forget. There I am with one of your 5 black billionaires, Dave Stewart. And he says to me, oh, man, Doc, I'm so glad we got together. I'm so glad we finally connected. man, I need to order, some more of your books, man. I said, Dave, you have all my books. You read them. No, I need to get some more. Can you send me a book list, what you give to your students? And hungry for the information. And every time you read and study and grow, what are you doing, Brother Wally? You're narrowing your zone of ignorance. Exactly. And when you violate the first law, which is knowledge, and you've heard me say it before, take the word capitalism. We live in a capitalistic society, and capitalism is not a dirty word. Capitalism means everything is for sale. But you write the word capitalism on a piece of paper, and you take the Latin derivative of the word capitalism, kaput, C-A-P-U-T. What does it mean in Latin? It means head. What's the one thing you must use in order to survive in a free and open society? You must use your head. The time for thinkers has come. And if you violate the first law, then there's no sense going on to the other six.
And that, see, when people, I hope they're feeling the passion, because as a speaker myself, and my key group is youth, 13 to 21. I try to get them before they become so-called adults and they know what they're doing right. I remember I was speaking to some high school juniors at Stone Mountain High. This was like 8 years ago. They had invited me in as, they were doing the, entrepreneur day, what does your parent do? So one of my nephews who went to the school, he had said, can you come speak to the class? I said, sure. So there was a young man who was what they considered nerdy. And he had said he read, and I read 3 books a month. I'm glad you brought that up. I'd said that on many shows, read at least 3 books a month. I was doing 1 a month in high school. I'm up to 3 books a month, and sometimes I reread them. But I don't want to digress. The young man, his name was Kirk. And he was kind of nerdy looking. He kind of had this Urkel look, and he said he likes to read. And if I didn't know better, he was trying out for Jaleel White's role in Urkel. But he had said, when somebody told him once about reading, and I was talking to him about being confident, and I said, do you play sports? He goes, yeah, but he doesn't feel athletic. He says, I like to read. And he said, one of the athletes told him at tryouts, man, that sucks. And I told him, tell him, yeah, but that sucks. Success. I said, change the words around. Tell him, yeah, that's success. So when you read later on, when he's not a successful athlete, you'll be his boss. You'll be in an office, more confident in yourself, and he'll be hiring you. This man now is a manager of 2 Goodyear auto mechanic shops, running down. Yes. And he has his BA in mathematics. Now, he doesn't look as nerdy as he did. I happened to see him, and I'm like shocked going, wow. I said, he remembered me. Now, when people get older and they start changing their body type, he remembered me walking in the Goodyear. I'm like, hey, Kirk, what's going on? He said, yeah, how you doing, Mr. Wallace? I said, wow. And he reminded me of what I told him because I shared that story. And I'm only saying that because it goes back to inquisitive, strong desire to know, quick to absorb and apply new information. Now, I'm not taking the credit for what he became at Goodyear. I'm saying that he heard maybe that, but it was in his spirit from possibly being turned down as an athlete. He was quite, athletic looking, but the way he dressed and carried himself as a 16-year-old didn't match up. I would think, Dr. Kimbro, as you know as a speaker in your freshman class, and I really, again, remember that day 10 years ago when I was in your class, your students, they really pay attention. And I don't think it's because you're intimidating. I think because the value of getting someone of your status mentally who is an expert in the field, if you're in it, you want to learn it. And I don't think enough of us are respecting those who could tell people how to read a contract, how to go into learning about savings, being thrifty and frugal in nature. And you got a section here, and if you could speak to this, because we try to differentiate between religion and spirituality. You got a section here, spirituality, the gospel of wealth. And some people really cannot differentiate between wealth and being rich. So if you could help those who are maybe stuck in that lane, talk about how they could use their own spiritual journey, no matter what the religion, to help find and finance who they are, so when the wealth comes, they don't miss it.
Well, I'm glad you made the distinction between the two. I mean, the wealth is, and you're really talking about income. But wealth is not what you have; it's what you have left over. I mean, and again, I'm just speaking to Black America right now, and I'm being a little bit rhetorical. You know, our problem is not money. Our problem is what we do with money. I mean, there are 175 countries that belong to the United Nations right now, and in terms of wealth and in terms of GDP, Black America is the 16th wealthiest country on the face of the earth. But every year, Brother Wally, $1.2 trillion goes through our hand with absolutely nothing to show for it. I mean, even the fact when you got 72,000 black churches in the United States that every Sunday collect $10 to $12 million in tithes and offerings. And even with the fact that we put in office 9,000 black elected officials in office, that money still goes through our hands. But, when you talk about wealth, there are 10 different forms of wealth. And when I go back and I look at my career, the only form of wealth that I had in order to do what I was able to do was the fourth form of wealth, which is persistence or perseverance. I just wouldn't quit. And what is persistence and perseverance? Nothing but the level of belief that you have in yourself. And I even tell my students the number one form of wealth. People think that money is the number one. No, money is not the number one form of wealth. The number one form of wealth is knowledge. Money isn't even number two. Work ethic is number two, and money is number three. But there is a distinction. Now, when I made the distinction that I was going to have any athletes or any entertainers, I've had athletes come up and say, "Oh, man, Doc, interview me, or at least let me fill out a survey." And I said, "No, I'm into wealth, not into income." I mean, when you look, and I've spoken to so many sports teams, and, from the Denver Nuggets basketball team to the St. Louis Rams football team, when you look at the average NFL football player, the average in terms of tour duty is 3 years, 8 months. That's all you get. And the average contract in the NFL is, $300,000 over 4 years. I mean, that's before taxes. There are only 8 to 12 athletes. There's 53 players on every NFL team, and only 8 to 12 are really earning big money. Well, if you're number 13 to 53, and your average contract is 4 years, $300,000 before taxes, and you come in the league, you forsake your, senior year in college, and you come in the league at age 20, and you're out of the league at age 24, what are you going to do with the rest of life that you have left? But it's still that mentality that we have to shake. Now, I'm going to get around to your question, but this book, The Wealth Choice, is a reset button. And, Brother Wally, I'm not patting myself on the back. Hell, what did I do? I didn't do anything fancy. I was a fly on the wall, set in the corner with all of your wealth creators, and I took notes with both hands. The problem is that we don't place our wealth creators on a pedestal. Now, you can come to my house and you can sit in my study, and I got a flat screen TV, and I'll put the remote control in your hand, Brother Wally, and you can channel surf all you want. And you might find an interview about Bill Gates, and you might find an interview about Steve Jobs, and you might find an interview about Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, Chad Hurley, the founder of YouTube. They are always profiling the wealth creators. But when's the last time you've seen an interview with Kathy Hughes? When is the last time you've seen an interview with Bob Johnson? If I put you to the test, could you tell me who your 5 black billionaires are? When is the last time we've seen that? Now, why is that critically important? Because what thou seest, that thou beest. What thou seest, that thou beest. And see, your most prolific scholar, W.B. Du Bois, he knew that. In 1899, our most prolific scholar wrote a book called The Negro in Business. This is W.E.B. Du Bois. And what he did, he took the train up and down the eastern seaboard from Philadelphia all the way down to Georgia, and he was interviewing black business owners, trying to ascertain the keys to financial success. So in 1899, he writes the book, The Negro in Business, and what did we do as a race? We took the book, put it on a shelf, and didn't even open it. Now, The Wealth Choice is a bestseller, and it's been submitted for a possible Image Award. And I know for a fact this is not about me. I mean, these sales and this accolade and any praise that I get is due to W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm just thankful and I'm just grateful that we're finally getting the message. We have got to develop our own economic development. And why is it crunch time? Imagine, Brother Wally, we are in a heavyweight fight. And as a race, we are precariously close to the referee pinning us in the corner, reaching to our mouth, pulling out the mouthpiece, and waving the rest of the fight off. Why? Because when you look at every economic indicator that would lead to prosperity or financial success as a race, Black America, if we're not in last place, we are in next to last place. We are in last place in home ownership. We are next to last place in education. We are in last place in financial institutions. In other words, using a bank for our financial transactions. We are in last place in marriage and savings. And that is critical. I mean, 7 years ago, I have a conversation with Andy Young. Here is a man who walked hand in hand, arm in arm, side by side with Martin Luther King. And do you know what this man told me? He said to me, me and Martin Luther King, we integrated the lunch counter, but we failed to integrate the dollar. And I said, Mr. Ambassador, how does anybody integrate the dollar? He said, somebody has got to come up with the keys, the traits, the qualities of how to compete effectively in a free, open market economic system. And that's not me. I mean, that's the Census Bureau. You know what the Census Bureau is predicting for 2020, 2025 at the latest? Do you know what the Census Bureau is predicting about Black America? They said if it doesn't occur in 2020, it will definitely occur in 2025. And when I tell you this, it's going to blow you away. They're saying by 2020, 2025 at the latest, the largest and fastest growing Black middle class will no longer be in the United States. It'll be in Africa. In other words, we couldn't hold on, and we couldn't build, and we couldn't pass the baton of Martin Luther King's dream. And just like people flock to Atlanta, girl, I'm going down to Atlanta. I understand that Black folks are doing it down in Atlanta. They got it going on. I don't even have to need a job. I'm going to just take my resume and I'll find a job. Just like they flock to Atlanta and other cities here in the United States. 2020, 2025, they're going to be flocking to Senegal. They're going to be flocking to Mali. They're going to be flocking to South Africa. We couldn't hold that man's dream. Well, here you are. Here are the 7 laws that your wealth creators.
Wow. You have put a lot of people, I would say, on a financial blast, because when you think about Africa, because, as you were saying that, and I was talking to a good friend of mine named Mike, and he was talking about some African brothers who were talking about investing in a project here. I'm not even going to get into it because it's too much time, but he was talking about his big money to be made from Africa. And the reason I'm saying this, because it segues into what you're mentioning, that Africa has not just been left alone. The prosperity and the wealth and the gold and all things that are being produced there for the time period, 13 years from now, 12 years from now, are going to have people in a state of flux if they're not ready. It's almost like the European wanting to go to the moon. He want to get up there and land and do whatever. Maybe our people have to get a paradigm shift from the American way of doing business, which I agree. As a collective, we have failed. Most people know one billionaire. They'll say it's Oprah. The second one, they'll say Jay-Z, because, they're reporting his status and they're throwing names out. But they don't know the ones you've researched to say, what makes someone billionaire? Is it the zeros behind their name? And I look at it more than just money. So as you broke that down, and again, as you speak and teach, I want our family to know, again, you're listening to Dr. Dennis Kimbrell, orator, businessman, Dr. Kimbrell extraordinaire. Please know this. These books were not written just to read. I would say they're study guides. And when I read What Makes the Great Great, I didn't just read it. I studied it. Because the stories you tell in there, and I'm only using that as a reference to what when I purchase, the Wealth Choice, because I haven't gotten it yet. But I look at it as a study guide that I'm going to get. It's not just a book, because if you don't study it, you're reading it like you would read any periodical on a newsstand, and this isn't what books should be for. Something may cause you to stop, pause, breathe, then say, you know what? I have to now do this, because maybe you're not on that path. Because I think books, and a lot of books I've read have done it to me. It makes me pause. When I read the autobiography of Malcolm X at 17, it made me look at, wow, I know a lot of guys who died doing this, and I'm glad I'm not doing it. So your book should make people want to, in a financial or physical sense of removing themselves, kill that habit, destroy it if you cannot produce from it. And I would hope that is strong enough for people to know you have to go through a painful journey, and maybe a lonely one. And I really like the part you wrote about how may I serve thee. I think a lot of people are forgetting. Let me ask you this, Dr. Kimbro. Do you need a break? Are you okay? Or
no, I'm fine. Hey,
great.
Listen, I'm fine, man.
I just wanted to make sure what we're doing the right thing.
The reason why I'm fine is because I finally submitted my grades.
There you go.
There's no one on that campus with more students than me, man. And so, hey, listen, when I submit my grades, I pop some bottles, brother.
There you go. And you do an excellent job. And I think people like you and Dr. Wally Bomani Baruti, who taught at Morehouse, scholars like yourself who are accessible in the Atlanta area. And before this show's over, I want you to give out any contact information that's necessary.
No problem.
I think people are missing the boat. And like you said, the brother who had asked, can you send me another book? I take that to make the point I was just saying. They want to read, but I'm wondering, are they really reading to try to remind themselves, or are they going to study and go, you know what, that reminds me of this part of me that I don't need to do anymore, or this part of me that I've been holding back? I guess in the boxing ring, using the same analogy you was talking about earlier, what should a person, when they're training to be financially successful or to learn the difference between being rich and wealthy, their cornermen, their people, what is their, I guess, what road work is necessary besides the 7 laws? I know there's some specific financial diets that they may need to undertake.
Yeah, I mean, number one, of course, now I can be detailed, I can be pedantic, I can be picayune, and I can tell you exactly, okay, put yourself on a financial budget, know exactly what's coming in and what's going out. But then I can be, a little bit, take the broader picture. I mean, if you really want to go ahead, like when I had the survey, and I found out, with my focus groups, one of the questions that I asked these black millionaires, so what age were you when you broke 6 figures, when you earned $100,000 a year or more? And Brother Wally, like I said, over a 7-year period, I interacted with minimum 1,000 black millionaires. So I said, what age were you when you broke 6 figures? And it came back 99.9% of the time, I was age 30. Then I said, I had a follow-up question. At what age were you when you got the big picture that you could go beyond 6 figures, maybe joining the 7-figure club? And they said, by early 40s. And then when did it occur? Well, the average black millionaire is a 52-year-old black male, 19% are female, born and raised in the Northeast and in the Southeast, and I give you all the data of the breakdown. They live in a house, appraised value of $300,000. They own 4 cars. If one's not a Mercedes, one's going to be a Lexus, and the other 2 will be domestic models. They have 2 children. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. Less than $5,000 credit card debt. Outside of the mortgage, less than $10,000 debt. In other words, they are very skilled, and they know what comes in and what goes out. So the bottom line, the bottom line is, I can tell you exactly what you need to do. Number one, you need to pay yourself first. Years ago, when I was dead broke, writing Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice, and W. Clement Stone of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, who gave me this task and gave me this charge, he could see from a distance what I couldn't see up close. Now, he said to me, young man, when this book is finished and hits the market, you're going to come into a fortune. And I couldn't see that. I mean, I lost 2 cars in the process. The house that I'm living in right now almost lost 5 different times. Gas, lights, water, electricity cut off a couple of times, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't see what this man was talking about. He said, no. He said, you're going to come into a fortune. And he said, let me give you some advice right now. He says, if you can't save 10 to 15% of everything that you earn, the seeds of greatness aren't in you. Now, just like you say, Brother Wally, I mean, you see me, you've been in my class, you know, hey, I'm off the rack, what you see. I mean, I got shoes that are 14, 15, 16 years old. I got suits that are 15 years old. I mean, I got students who dress better than me, who drive newer cars than me, but the bottom line, I'll ask my students, can you give me the name of your broker? Dr. Kimbrell, what's a broker? Well, let's talk about that. I mean, that's what we need to do. You know, we need to really concentrate on what we earn. Make thy money grow. And Bishop T.D. Jakes said it all. And what do we know about Bishop T.D. Jakes? I mean, you know, I interviewed him there. I am at the Potter's house about to interview this paragon. And here, you know, when you look at Bishop T.D. Jakes, number one, they told him he would never make it in the ministry. Why? Because he's got a heavy lisp. Number two, Bishop Jakes never finished high school. He went back to get his GED, but he is a high school dropout. Number three, they damn near ran him out of Charleston, West Virginia with only 8 members. But now, Brother Wali, you fast forward the videotape, and here he has a 91,000 square foot facility, you know, $45 million, 30,000, you know, member mega church. And there I am in his book line study. And I'm looking at every book on God's green earth that you would ever want to read, study, or examine in your life. And all of a sudden, in walks T.D. Jakes. And I said, I threw up all the obstacles that would have froze any man or woman in the path. And I said, Bishop, they said you weren't going to make it in the ministry, but it looks like, you know, you proved your critics wrong. And he said to me, he says, well, you know, my critics weren't altogether wrong. The lisp is still there. But I don't care if I had to spit. I don't care if I had to stutter. I don't care if I had to stammer. I had something to say, and I was going to say it. And I said, well, you got an open mic. I got my pad and pencil and recorder. Go ahead, lay it on me. You know we're talking about wealth and prosperity. And he says, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. But show him how he can buy the pond, and no one in his family will ever know struggle. Well, maybe it's time for us to buy the pond. In other words, take your unique gifts and find out how you can monetize it. And I don't know what book these folks read, but my book says God's no respecter of persons. In other words, everybody has talent. Everybody has a dream. What are you going to do with it?
And you are laying out that path, and I hope people who are listening, 1-805-309-0111, of course, 840-360-pound is our release. That's very powerful. What I want to do, Dr. Kimbrell, because I know we got about 20 minutes, I want to unmute the phones. I know there's a listener out there probably, you know, kowtowing, probably wanting to say something, but may feel pressure of admitting some things. You have to be transparent at times to feel the love that's being given to you tonight. These are jewels, family, so I want you to be able to ask Dr. Kimbrell anything you may want with candor. Be open, and it's all a learning experience here. And he's doing this on the air for free. He can command thousands of dollars to speak. That's what motivational speakers do. Les Brown being my mentor, I know what it costs, and I've charged a fee when I spoke too. But again, I don't want to digress. So, Delani, if you can unmute the lines, we can get a caller or two, and I'm sure you'll be able to help them out in their mission if there is one that's going to be said tonight.
The conference is now in conversation mode.
Okay, so if there's any callers, again, this is Brother Wali of Harambee Radio Television Network. Special guest, Dr. Dennis Kimbrell, with his book, The Wealth Choice. I think a lot of you are going to want to purchase that after tonight's show, so you may want to grab that. So if there's any caller that's willing to open up the line, or any of our other Harambee family who may want to speak at this time, feel free to come on in. Wealth Choice, Success, Secrets of Black Millionaires. Maybe you're one too. Go ahead.
Brother Wally, am I on?
Yes, you're on. Who's this?
All right, this is Brother Earl Mitchell. How are you?
Brother Earl Mitchell, peace and blessings. Another great author. Family, this is Brother Earl Mitchell, who was on my show a few months ago, whose book, The Egyptian Origins of Washington, D.C., by Brother Earl Mitchell. Welcome again to Harambee, brother. What's your question for Dr. Kimbrell?
Well, Dr. Kimbrell, first and foremost, thank you for all the work that you've done and continue to do. And real brief, and I'll take this off the air. What is the one thing that you saw in all of the research that you've done that made all these individuals who happen to become millionaires, or should I say billionaires, what is that one thing that you have found in individuals who do become successful? Because as you said, there are those things that do happen, whether you are to pay a light bill here, or you can't pay a light bill here, or a car note there. Ultimately, that perseverance. What's that one thing that you saw in all of these individuals that you can pretty much say if each individual focused on that area, that's how he or she might be able to get to that financial position?
Well, I found 7, but there's 7 laws of wealth. But if I had to choose one, they believe in themselves when no one else will. There I am with Damon John, and I said, Damon John of Shark Tank. And I said, what was the defining moment in your life? And he said, well, when I had to burn the furniture. I said, excuse me, what do you mean burn the furniture? He said, well, when I finally got financing from Samsung to go ahead and start my apparel line, I hired all these seamstresses, and they showed up at my mother's house with all their equipment, and I had no place to put the sewing machines. So I said, what did you do? He said, well, I took all the furniture out of my mother's house, put it in the backyard, and set it on fire. He said, believe in yourself when no one else will. It was that type of faith and belief that would allow Kathy Hughes, and I spent 2 days with her. Here she is, one of your black billionaires, and, when she bought her first radio station for 1 year, she slept on the floor of her first radio station with her son in tow. And that restroom down at the end of the corridor, well, that's where they bathed every day and they ate off a hot plate. And what the hell am I doing with Tyler Perry? And I said, Tyler, how in the world did you go from sleeping in your car in New Orleans and sleeping in your car in the Atlanta area to building a $145 million production studio? And he said to me, nothing but the grace of God. Believe in yourself when no one else will. Now, there's 2 types of faith. There's faith in self, and there's faith in others. And so many people, they go ahead and they place the faith in others. It's just like when one of the factors in one of my focus groups, and I'm talking to them about spirituality, and so many times we hear the biblical phrase, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, the average individual will go ahead and read that and say, oh, man, that's nice. But these individuals who I rub shoulders with will read that, and the next phrase is, well, what the hell are we standing here? Let's go do something. Didn't you hear what the man said? Didn't you hear what the book wrote? So that's the bottom line, man. You've got to believe. You got to have faith. There is nothing pretentious or precocious about your Creator. Where in the world do ideas come from? An idea comes from your Creator, knocking on your subconscious, asking you, do you want more out of life? And so many people will turn their back to Him. And so many people will spend the majority of their adult life trying to limit the unlimited. Did you hear what I said? Trying to limit the unlimited. No, man, come on. It may not occur overnight, what Earl Graves told me. He said sooner or later the impossible may not become possible, overnight, but over time the impossible can certainly become possible. So if I had to choose one, that certainly lies at the forefront.
I got an acronym for idea, individual, divinity, expressing, and I want people to get this, ability. That's just my way to say whatever's in your mind's eye, you express that outwardly. So sometimes I write words out and make acronyms out of them. And Brother Earl Mitchell, I hope he answered your question.
Oh, definitely.
Just like in one of the focus groups, this is a sister who lives in Frisco, Texas. She told me, she said, you can make excuses or you can make money, but damn it, you can't do both.
I love that. Can you say that again, brother, for anybody who missed it?
She said, and like I said, this sister is, barely 40 years old. Sharp sister. 7-figure club, brother said, you can make excuses or you can make money, but you can't do both.
There you go.
At any given time in life, you are either moving closer to love or closer to fear. Come on, it's time to remove the mask. Adam, who told you were naked? Jesus, don't you know you had people worried? We've been looking 3 days for you. And what was his response? Worried? Me? You should have known where I would be. Don't you know about my Father's business? Well, Black America, what is your Father's business? Your Father's business is raising consciousness. Your father's business is going higher and higher in knowledge and growth and development and being better today than you were yesterday. That's your father's consciousness.
So on point. And family, again, as you're listening in the 15 minutes we got left, Dr. Kimbrell is giving you these jewels for you to go ahead and take upon a challenge of yourself. And I would hope anybody who hasn't been challenged, you're challenged tonight. As Kevin Hart say, you're going to learn today. So try to learn something about yourself as he's giving you these jewels. Any other callers that have a question or a comment to Dr. Kimbrell? Because this is not, like he said about his book, it's about you and how you're going to apply the principles that's in this book, soon to be an Emmy Award-winning book. Please use that now to ask the questions and or apply the methodology to them. Any other caller that wants to release questions on the air? So again, this is about us learning about things that are available to us, keys to your own victory. Well, until they do, Dr. Kimbrell, continue to teach. And I think a lot of people who get the point, and again, I've watched for my own self when I came into my financial prosperity, and I'm going to be honest with you, Dr. Kimbrell, if I could be transparent, I haven't been where I wanted to be in the six-figure club. For a period of time I wanted to be in it, if you know what I mean. I've seen it come and go, and I've had to go up and down because of different situations and family that I had to go through, but it hasn't stopped me from feeling the value of it, not financially, but the mindset. I've never lost the mindset. I've never said, oh, I'm going to just go back to poverty. No. I know what I had to do. I know I had to sacrifice some things because I wasn't going to leave certain families away. But I want people not to get stuck on the number, but know that that number will keep you from blaming anybody else.
Yeah.
So I have my mindset intact. I'm able to do this, my gift of speaking and listening. See, I look at the gift hand in hand. As a speaker, I'm a better listener. I know how to read body language, and I'm giving a speech. I look at the audience and go, okay, they're not ready yet. Before I go on, let me watch somebody in the audience. I'm going to pick out. So those things help me. Again, even my good brother, Dub Deuce DePoa, when he and I have gone out into the communities and have spoken to churches and youth organizations, he and I have learned from seminars and raising consciousness that we have to speak to people who may be of different faiths than us. Because I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but I can go into a Christian church. I can go into a Muslim mosque. I can go talk with Buddhists, and we can discuss things that will help us grow. Again, any other callers that would like to share, the line is open, and we'll be glad to have Dr. Kimbrell give you these jewels as well, because in a few minutes I want to get him to give out his contact information for some of you who may want to, for a nominal fee, have him speak to your organization to uplift them as well.
You know, Brother Wally, you just hit the nail on the proverbial head when you say that you're just this is a work in progress. Okay, this is a quest that you're on, a journey that you're on. And, you know, if people knew who walks beside them every day on this journey called life, we would never doubt or fear again. But you're just as successful now as you will be when you do come into whatever that financial goal is. Why? Because there is a key to happiness. There is a secret to happiness, and it's called growth and development. And that's what you're doing now. If you're not growing and you're not developing, you will never be happy. I mean, what are we taught to do? Number one, we are taught to go ahead and gain dominion. And how do you gain dominion? By taking in love and reducing the fear, by unlearning all the nonsense, you know. I mean, so many times people will go ahead and they'll overvalue the physical and undervalue the mental. And until you grow, until you develop, until you learn how to say the two words, I can, what are the words, pictures, and images going through the mind of a successful person? They think about dreams. They think about productivity. They think about going somewhere, doing something in life. They think about the two words, I can. What are the words, pictures, and images going through the mind of the unsuccessful person? They think about lack, and they think about scarcity. They think about, oh, woe is me, I can't do this. And they think about the two words, I can't. In 1944, there was a knock at the door. At the office, you know, at the office of, here is the paragon of excellence at Morehouse. I mean, here is the former president of Morehouse College, Benjamin Mays, and there's a knock at the door, and it's a man and his son, and they walk into his office, and the man says to Dr. Mays, I am so honored that you would take time out of your busy schedule to even talk to me and my son, and I want to bring my boy by. He's 15 years old, and he's going to a 10-year college in the fall. And Dr. Mays, I'm not asking for tuition. I'm not asking for room and board, and I certainly don't need money for books. I can pay that all out of pocket. But what I wanted you to do, Dr. Mays, is go ahead and say a few words to inspire my son. I know that he's going to have a good life, but I want to make sure that he has a life worth living. And what did Benjamin Mays tell that little boy, that 15-year-old boy? He talked about it's not a sin not to reach your goal, but it is a sin to have low goals to reach. And who was that man? He was Daddy King. And who was that boy? It was Martin Luther King. And if I can go ahead and inspire somebody to go ahead and get their dream and chase their dream and to develop a vision, dream, vision, action, reality, I mean, that is the protocol, that is the template, then all the better for it.
Very well said. I wrote a poem in 1979 called The Positivity of the Possibility, and it is right on point with what you just said. It is this short. Always say I can from now until. When you say I can't, you never will. And that stayed with me till today, and I've used that moniker among many others in my time in solitude to build up the wealth of my mind. And tonight, you've only re-sparked the fire in me, and I hope all of those who are listening, that whatever your gift, your journey is, you look at that path, you admire the trees, the sky, the wind, the water. You take some time out to reflect and redirect, if necessary, your energy. I know I do it daily. I go back and piece together another formula for success, and I take bits and pieces, and I got tags around my room, reminders of who I am. I keep the poem Desiderata up on my wall, and you know the first line of that is go plastically amongst the noise and the haste and remember what peace there may be in silence. So I use these things as keys to myself. And what I want you to do now, Dr. Kimbrell, and again, this is your first time on Harambee with me, not your last time. And I'm planning to visit your class again, and I would love to either speak at the class and then extend more energy or be at whatever seminar you're going to be giving around the Clark Atlanta University area that I could visit in my time. So we will definitely talk offline about that. But if you could take a moment and give the family any contact information, how to reach you, book you for any speaking events, I'm sure they'll be in gratitude because tonight's show was monumentous, and I thank you again.
Oh, you are more than kind. And again, I am so humble. I'm just trying to, to use my time effectively, and you've heard me say it before, if you live the normal life, and what is a normal life? 74, 78 years on earth. That's all you get. You do the calculus. That equates to 29, 30,000 days on earth. That's all we get. Time is not running out, but your life is. And the critical question that you have got to ask yourself, what am I going to do with the rest of life that I have left? And Brother Wali, all any of us want to do is to make a difference. Leave it better than what we found it. And there's only 4 things in life you got to do. Number 1, you want to make a difference. Number 2, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference. Number 3, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference. But number 4, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes all the difference in the world. And this is the time. And to be more specific, www.DennisKimbro.com. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm in Twitter. I would love to hear from you. But this is a critical juncture for my race. I want you to tweet. I want you to email. I want you to fax. I want you to text your 3 closest friends and ask them, have you read The Wealth Choice? If not, why not?
Make a difference with someone who wants to make a difference, make a difference with someone who wants to make a difference who...
Yeah, number 1, you want to make a difference. Number 2, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference. Number 3, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference. But number 4, you want to make a difference with others who want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes all the difference in the world.
Thanks, Dr. Kimbrell. Dr. Kimbrell.
Yep, you go ahead.
Dr. Kimbrell, this is Lee Moultrie, South Carolina. I just was at a school for children on last Friday in South Carolina, and I asked them, were they familiar with your book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice? They weren't. I said, well, when you have these kids up here, this is a good source for you to have, so they will be contacting you. As we look forward to the holidays that are here for the consumers of this world, and we look at the Wealth Choice, we look at Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, and we look at Reginald Lewis's book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? When we put all that in context, and we look at leaving a legacy for our children's children, how do you see us framing that in the holiday season of consumerism in the 21st century?
Well, when you look at our buying habits, it's an open book. I mean, if you don't know where our money goes, Wall Street certainly knows where our money goes. I mean, we are 12% of the population, but, I mean, we buy 30 to 35% of all salt, toothpaste, pasta, household detergents, Pampers. I mean, black males are only 6% of the population, and we buy 1 out of every, 5 pairs of shoes that Nike manufactures. We buy more than 25% of all flat-screen TVs, which is twice our population. Black females are 6% of the population, but they buy 27% of all shoes and cologne manufactured here in the United States. So I know we're going to get the latest, game box and blah, blah, blah. We're going to go get the latest shoes, blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying you might want to take that money instead of, buying the latest Air Jordans or LeBron James shoes, buy a share in Nike. Instead of, you go ahead and spending that money on something that will certainly, I don't care, wither or vanish over time, go ahead and get a T-bill, get a treasury bond. Go ahead and buy some stock or share and get in the stock market. Because when you look at the stock market, over the last 20 years, I know there's highs and lows, ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster. But I mean, we're looking at a 12 to 13 to 14% average. You can't save that fast enough. And again, going back to Black America, I mean, the average household income in Black America is $29,000-$30,000. I mean, right now, 27% of African Americans spend more, on a weekly basis than what they bring in. 35% have no savings account. More than 40% of African Americans are non-banked or unbanked. What is the number 1 bank of Black America? Walmart. What's the number two bank of Black America? The post office. Buying money orders. Yeah. Who is the number 1 employer of Black America? Walmart. Who's number 2? McDonald's. I mean, I'm grateful to McDonald's and Walmart for employing my race, but we're talking nothing but minimum wage jobs. Again, get into saving 10%. Get into forsaking today for tomorrow. The poor keep score by cars and clothes. The middle class keeps score by degrees and titles. But the wealthy keep score by their bank account.
There you go. How do we address the home business ownership?
What I wanted to say to you, caller, if you could reach Dr. Kimbro offline with his email, he'll be glad to chat. We have a Sister Gwen Mack coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. This is Brother Wali. I didn't want to cut you short, but for the interest of time, I want to let... No problem. I want to let the family know this was Dr. Dennis Kimbro, entrepreneur, wealth management master teacher. If you need to get in contact with him, take this information. I will be getting my book tomorrow, and when I see you again, Dr. Kimbro, you will be autographing it for me like you did my last book of yours, that makes you great. Praise God for you, my brother. What makes the great is what makes all of us who we are. So if you can, family, get in touch with this great teacher, master teacher, Dr. Dennis Kimbrell. Listen to Harambee Radio and television on a consistent basis. Step up, rise up, be who you're supposed to be, because you can't go forward looking backwards. This is Brother Wali again. getting ready to take you to the next step in your evolution and family once again. Dr. Dennis Kimbrell, we appreciate all the energy and time you gave us, my brother.
Take care. God bless, Brother Wally. Thanks a million. Bye-bye.
Otep and Ashe.